The United States, a nation born from the ashes of colonialism and the displacement of Native American populations, perpetually grapples with a fragmented sense of identity. Through the lens of Jungian depth psychology, this enduring struggle can be attributed to the collective unconscious being pervaded, forged from its colonial past. This shadow, embodying the suppressed and unresolved aspects of American history, incessantly influences the nation's psyche, breeding a political, discord, and unstable collective identity. Carl Jung's theory of the collective unconscious posits that beneath our personal unconscious lies a deeper, shared layer by all human beings. This collective unconscious houses archetypes, fundamental psychological patterns and symbols that shape human behavior and culture. Among these archetypes is the shadow, which represents the dark, unacknowledged aspects of the psyche, or experiences of which the psyche has gone through. While individuals have personal shadows, societies also possess collective shadows that encapsulate the unowned parts of their history and culture. So how does this relate to American history? The colonial foundation of the United States involves the systematic displacement, oppression, and often extermination of Native American peoples. This brutal past is a significant part of America's collective shadow. However, rather than fully integrating and reconciling with this dark history that the country has, much of it has been repressed or sanitized in the national consciousness. This repression fosters ongoing tension, as the unresolved shadow perpetually seeks recognition and integration. So I would say here that the presence of this collective shadow manifests in various ways, particularly within the realm of American politics, and is symbolic of the reason to why Americans have, and probably always will have, an identity crisis. The divide between different political factions can be seen as a reflection of the unintegrated aspects of the national psyche. On one side, there is a tendency to idolize the past and resist acknowledging the dark elements of American history, often found in more conservative circles. On the other hand, there is a push to confront and rectify historical injustices, typically championed by more progressive movements, as we can see. This dichotomy creates a persistent ideological rift. The conservative impulse to maintain a glorified narrative of American exceptionalism clashes with the progressive drive to bring the shadow into the light of social justice and seek true reconciliation of historical wrongdoing. Each side, in their own way, of course, grapples with this collective shadow that the country has for its history. Conservatives have a tendency to be in denial, and progressives have a tendency to over-identify with guilt through political correctness as their politic. Both polarities lean towards insecurity, the same forms of insecurity that can be found in attachment theory of either avoidance, which would be more that of the conservatives, or anxiousness being more that of the progressives, which fundamentally prevents any genuine integration of the shadow of their history, ultimately leading to political extremism of either polarity and ultimately the evasion of any form of truth. But a particularly vivid example of America's ongoing modern identity crisis is the rise of what we can see within the right wing called Christian nationalism. This new ideological conception attempts to fuse American national identity with a specific interpretation of Christianity, advocating for a nation governed by what they perceive as Christian values, often with the remarks of introducing a theocracy as a governing body politic. However, this notion is an inherent contradiction. The United States was founded on principles of religious freedom and separation of church and state, making the conception of a unified Christian nation paradoxical to the founding of its own country. Christian nationalism's unstable foundation likely harbors probably more unsettling agendas that are unconscious to itself. Utilizing this ideology to use Christianity as a mere Trojan horse for deeper, potentially more harmful objectives to breed nationalist sentiment under the false flag of religiosity. We only have to look so far to see someone like Nick Fuentes, a political trickster of conniving persuasion most of the time, to be at the forefront of him coining himself a Christian nationalist, whilst also having a keen distaste towards Jews, as he constantly pronounces himself to be. But this concept of a Christian nationalism can therefore be seen as a manifestation of the American psyche's desperation to form a coherent identity for itself amidst the unresolved shadow of its past in which it doesn't want to integrate. Yet with such desperation, as we can see, will always follow disintegration. Whether we like it or not, it is likely to grow in interest in years to come. This Christian nationalism itself is probably going to grow quite a bit. But this movement's appeal lies in its promise of a clear, cohesive identity, but it ultimately reflects the confusion and fragmentation at the heart of the nation's collective unconscious. Rather than addressing the shadow, Christian nationalism just merely exacerbates the divide through internal contradiction with the use of its own definition, creating a simplistic narrative that ignores the complexities of true American history and identity. American patriotism is fundamentally, we could see, as more of a Promethean agenda or attitude. The country itself is a Promethean experiment. Because what is this mysterious God Americans claim to trust as being the motto for their country? In God we trust, as they would be saying. For it certainly is not stated to be Christ itself. Yet the country continues to spout that it is founded on Christian values, while having a statue to represent liberty as its national emblem of some kind, which is not fundamentally a Christian value. Liberty is not a Christian value. Yet most patriots will slap on a Christ is King bumper sticker to their, 4x4 truck while driving to the shooting range to test out their latest killing machines. There's a lot of contradiction we can see here with this conservative identity that Americans have kind of developed for themselves. American patriotism often embodies thus this kind of, a representation of a false, undignified form of pride. This so-called patriotism frequently hinges on an idealized narrative of selective memory of the nation's righteous founding fathers of achievement, while glossing over and entirely omitting to the colonial Holocaust that decimated Native American populations, who are what we could say the true original American people. The collective shadow of this genocide often remains unspoken and unresolved within the national consciousness. The true essence of American patriotism, therefore, is built upon a foundation of historical denial and selective memory. This false pride prevents the nation from fully integrating its shadow of the past, perpetuating a cycle of instability and identity crisis in which we see so frequently today. Genuine patriotism would require a reckoning with the past, acknowledging the full scope of the nation's history, including its darkest chapters. Instead, we could see someone like the Amish man, a true man of faith, is the only immigrant of America who has found himself in the land that he has grown with his own bare hands. He has produced a tradition and a culture that will continue for years to come under his true faith with Christ. So is there any path towards healing for this issue that very much seems to be unconsciously controlling the narrative of American politics and identity? I believe if we apply this psychological lens of analysis, it can help Americans understand that as a people, You reap what you sow. The history and birth of a nation's founding through colonialism or imperialism or whatever it is will always be tainted with its own self-inflicted trauma. And like anything else, there is always going to be an equal and opposite reaction that will be made manifest through the collective consciousness. Therefore, by observing cultural phenomena, we can decipher what is truly happening to the identity of a people. Now, if you enjoyed this video and you want to go over onto my Substack or my newsletter to read the full articles or any other articles I have out there that you can check out, I will put a link in the description. Tell me what your thoughts are on this. How do you perceive these problems of identity and the crisis of identity being present in America today? I'd very much be interested in your thoughts on that. And with that said, thanks for watching. Make sure to like, share it about, subscribe, and I'll speak to you in the next video.